In terms of the world of hotels and selling the price per key, this one is insane.
Get a high density of rich folks that will do things that are more for sport or entertainment and will buy properties that make no financial sense.
Do you like skiing and dislike your extended family? Then this is for you. We got a good one for you today on the Real Estate Anonymous podcast. We're going to dig into a luxury hotel in Park City. It is being run at break even at best under the rosiest of assumptions. And if you know why someone would buy this type of property, congrats. And if you don't, then you're too broke, and we will talk to you about why rich people make decisions to buy things like this. Super cool property. Hope you guys like it. All right, welcome in another edition of the Real Estate Anonymous podcast. Elliot White, Eric Weatherholt, Brett Moss, and we have a special guest, Antonio Becerra, a friend and developer who's joining us on the pod today. We are going to be talking about a very, very cool hotel in Park City, something that I think we would all probably already say we would like to buy. And we'll get into, just some weird real estate stuff. So before we jump in, we'll go around the horn here. Brett you've got new headphones.
New headphones.
Great to hear
new headphones, new microphones.
What you've been working on.
Yeah, so working on a lot of residential real estate today, over the last few months, actually over the last few 8 or 9 years. And I think this continues to be a preferred asset class, but this feels a lot like it did coming out of COVID, where the yield requirements are as wide as I've seen since post-COVID. And I think as we talked about on prior podcasts, the institutional folks are fully back into the market, which are driving yields lower. So the discrepancy in bids or the range of bids are materially wide from what we've seen maybe over the last 2 years, which I think is a positive in terms of valuations, and is really revolving around the undersupply issue that's coming in 2026, like a ton of bricks.
So you're seeing more activity? Are you starting to see people wanting to transact a little bit more?
Very much so. And I think we've gone quickly from we're all looking for distress and we're looking for a high teens levered IRR to now institutions, as we talked about, the Starwoods of the world, the KKRs of the world, the Blackstones of the world, based on their cost of capital, are driving levered IRRs to a down to low teens again, which is good news for sellers, I think is the best way to say that.
Eric, what about you and your weird space? I know Brett's seen it on the multi side. Are you seeing transactions pick up at all? You seen anything interesting?
Yeah, we got a lot of transactions. The type that we're getting is our stuff's getting stolen. We've got 4 projects under construction, and we're now hiring off-duty police to watch the places at night to keep stuff from copper pipes getting ripped out that have just been installed. We kind of uncovered this caper. Our GC lost it's probably $100,000 skid steer, one of those Bobcat deals. And here's how that caper goes down. We've learned in retrospect that people will come around, sort of case the area, see one for sale or see one on a site, list it for sale in a port city of Florida on Facebook Marketplace, get the buyer on the hook. So they'll take this $100,000 machine, put it on Facebook Marketplace for like 10 grand. And once they get the sale, bust in that night, put it on a trailer, drive to Miami, put it on a boat, and these things are getting sold and going on a boat to like Eastern Europe.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
That sounds like a business I'd like to get into. Where are your job sites? Just asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Where are your job sites?
Apparently it's buy one, get one.
Yeah. Well, I've buried the lead a bit here. Antonio Becerra, Thrilled to have you on. Thank you. Been a friend for a while. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, what projects you're working on, how people can get in touch with you, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I know. I'm super excited to join you guys. You guys sound like a lot of fun. We'll see. We'll see how today's goes. I'm a really
You didn't really get prepped. You didn't get prepped that this is a show by dumb guys for dumb guys. I don't really know how this is. Bringing in an accomplished, intelligent woman into that milieu, I don't know quite how that works. So, but continue.
I've been
Go ahead, Antonio.
friends with you and Elliot for a little while, so clearly, I'm just meeting Brett, but it's maybe that's what it takes to deal with you guys. It's fine. It's the price of admission. I'm okay. So I'm a real estate developer. I've been doing development project management for a while now. I did it for some really big shops. We built a lot of big stuff in New York, and then I assembled a team and built a bunch of stuff across the country. That's sort of the Cliff's Notes of it. And then earlier this year, I partnered with someone who is not in development, really great finance mind, and we started a development company in New York, specifically to develop condos in Manhattan. So in the meantime, we're still running the fee development company. It's a completely different company. We have a full team, project managers managing projects all over the country. We're still taking work. We're still performing for our clients. But in the meantime, we're looking to grow this New York condo development firm, which has been really exciting this year.
Awesome.
Super cool.
Antonio and I have talked offline a couple times about the stuff she's working on. I'm certainly not going to spill the beans on this podcast here, but some interesting projects. And I'm psyched that you guys are growing. So, and thank you for coming on board.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. This is fun.
This esteemed group of real estate professionals.
Yeah, this
well, maybe that's not 100%
group
true.
of bright minds. So we're looking at some Section 8 stuff. We're looking at some tax credit stuff. We're nibbling at a few things that are unbelievably complicated, almost complex for sport. It's getting to that point. I won't bore people with the details, but it's taken over my existence. And hopefully we end up making a couple bucks. But the part of me that really likes abuse, the part of me that used to pay people to put cigarettes out on my chest, that part is really being satisfied with this portfolio. So we'll see how it goes. But either way, I'm getting something nice out of the trade, a little bit of abuse, and maybe we'll make some money. Today, we've got a very cool hotel in Park City that's being listed for sale with an asking price. Brett, I don't know how you feel as a broker when people put a price on it, but it's certainly refreshing.
I would say that I think, as we've mentioned on a prior podcast, you don't want to cap the upside here. It only takes one, and if somebody's willing to pay a higher price, you'd hate to cap them out on a listed price.
It only takes one.
Only one, because brokerage is so easy. Antonio, we've been talking about. I've already made $1.8 million on this call.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in to us for the first time, it's important to be clear. Brett's job is a joke. Brokerage is just smooth sailing. You just collect commission checks.
It's like an episode of the Andy Kaufman episode.
You're a broker, right?
Yeah. I just sit around with my hand out, and it's really, really easy. So find me on Twitter, find me on YouTube, drop me a message, and come ride shotgun with me for a little bit.
Like that old clip of Scrooge McDuck diving into the coins in the vault in his house. That's what I picture you do when you go home. You just strip down butt naked and get in the cash pool.
Yeah, it's good. I've actually filled my swimming pool out back with all cash, straight cash. Nice. I mean, as my brother Randy Moss would say.
Straight cash. That's good.
And do we have wiring instructions in the comments here for people?
Yeah, I'll put those in there after this podcast, but just get the wires flowing quickly, and trust me, you got a deal.
Is this for wiring for real estate, or is this for Brett's OnlyFans page?
I'm an OnlyFans foot model, so that's only for my foot model business.
Yeah.
You're putting used socks in Ziploc bags and selling them to people overseas.
It's become a huge honey hole. It's crazy some of these fetishes people have.
He's making more off those yellow toenails than he ever did flipping apartments.
Jesus Christ! Yeah. This is the kind of alpha people tune in for.
Exactly.
Feet pics and toenail clippings for
right.
as a side hustle.
Yeah, and inflation has helped that business too because pricing's gone up.
Oh my God! All right, well, Brett, let's pull this thing up and a quick overview. I think it's 15 rooms or 16 rooms, and I won't bury the lead here. They're asking a little over $2 million a key, which is, to me, and Tony would know better than I, boy, that seems like a big number. I'm not saying that's wrong for this location, but in general, anytime a hotel trades above $1 million a key, I feel like it makes the news. So AB, what do you know about the high-end luxury hotel? This is destination. This is ski country. This is a beautiful property, gorgeous design, and I think it's probably worth the $2 million a key they're asking for. But in general, how does that rank? Is that an unheard of price per key?
Sure. The short answer is yes. That is, I mean, that is not even St. Regis Montage level. Maybe not even close. This is like, I mean, I don't even know like if Vermonts have traded other than when like the company changed ownership, but this is like beyond, like we don't see this. I don't see this. And while it is very cool, just from looking at the photos, I've never been there. I wouldn't call this luxury either. So there's sort of that, and there's a good explanation for the price. We can talk about how these people are thinking of this, but in terms of the world of hotels and selling the price per key, this one is insane. This is like pretty wild.
So it's on Park Avenue.
Park Avenue, yeah.
I'm trying to picture. Is it at the sort of at the top end?
It's sort of.
What is it? Where on the street?
It's right by Fifth. It's like right on Fourth. Actually, it's like right where Fourth dies, like the dead end of Fourth. It literally dies in front of this place. So it's sort of in the middle, right in the middle of Park, like of Main Street.
Yeah. So Park City, great, ski town, has this unusual main street, Park Avenue. Almost anytime you see a great shopping street, it's flat. Almost anywhere in the world, really. And this is sort of unusual that that you've got this sloping, with a pretty good grade to it. It's kind of a schlep to go from one end to the other. For a retail street, it always stuck out to me as it's being kind of unusual. We went way down the road on buying a building there on Park Avenue years ago. And got a little bit of a taste of it, but so talk about maybe you mentioned Montage. What is there in the way of boutique hotels these days in Park City?
I mean, Park City, and I'll just give you more like I'm not a hotel operator, and by any means would I ever claim to be one. I work with them all the time. I've built hotels for people, but operating hotels is an entirely different beast where I've done development of very complex buildings, historic conditions, and I think hotel operations is like orders of magnitude much more difficult than anything I've ever done in terms of executing on development. So those people are crazy. You need to be born a certain way to operate hotels. The hotel landscape in Park City is really interesting, where there really aren't that many hotels. Park City makes it incredibly difficult to build anything. I mean, and this is going to play a lot into why I think that they're pricing this so high. There's basically not much, if anything at all, like this in the area. I know that I looked at building different kind of product, townhomes in a Park City adjacent area a couple of years ago. And so I looked a lot into like hotel statistics, and I think only something like 50% of temporary accommodations in Park City are actually in hotels. The rest is all Airbnb or inns like this one, but there aren't many. So it's really mostly people renting their homes or like having rental properties that they rent out. So there isn't much by way of hotel in this area, which is part of what makes it unique. I mean, there are a couple of hotels close by to here, sort of a little bit further from the mountain, that you can, during ski season, I think the rates are like four or $500 a night, and they're like 2-star hotels. Like they're exterior corridor, motel quality, 1990s vintage brown, beige, maybe renovated like 10 years ago, and they will charge you $500 a night. And they will be booked out for weeks because there literally is nothing else. So now you begin to understand that market, and you begin to understand why these people would think that they could, ask for $2.5 million a key, which still I can't. It's silly. It's like, I can't even, every time I say it, I'm like, these people are crazy. But then it's like, well, there are reasons. And it all goes back to that sort of supply and demand.
I think there's that, but I think in there's a handful of markets in the country where, weird things happen when you put a high density of rich people together, and there's commercial property that comes available in Aspen or Del Mar or Jackson Hole or Nantucket, and you get high density of rich folks that will do things that are more for sport or entertainment, and will buy properties that make no financial sense. And really, a lot of times these are smart people that wouldn't do it in their own, they wouldn't do it in New York even, but there's something about whether it's a show off nature or a way to, amuse themselves or entertain friends, that buying unique properties in these affluent destination markets that have high barriers to entry, weird stuff can happen, and people will do things without regard to anything that makes any sort of financial sense. What kind of, do we have any kind of numbers or anything on this, Brett?
Just to be clear, it's not quite $2 million a key. It's 12 guest rooms. So it's $2,583,000 per key.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's 2.5 per key.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if there was any.
They're saying right now,
I didn't see any numbers.
Now all it has is financials. It doesn't have operating expenses. So gross revenue for 21, 22, 23 was 1.94, 1.91, and then 2 million last year. I don't know typical hotel operating expenses, but presumably that's just revenue. They're not talking NOI. So, the person who's buying this, I think, Eric, you're probably right. It's probably a collective of some wealthy guys who like skiing and like, this will be fun. It's a nice place. We can go out there, and if it covers some of the costs, who cares? It's not. It's not an investment necessarily.
It's a great story and it's fun.
Yeah, but
and I think the return on.
Go ahead. But the problem is you're competing. If that's the market you're targeting for a seller, you're also competing versus the people who would just buy a single family home for the same reason. That is this size,
right? In
the air, like literally.
Yeah. So
ski in, ski out, which this is not. So
you know what it is? It's 3 rich brokers from Berkadia who don't want to buy their own house, but they do think, the 3 or 4 of us should just chip in. We'll each kick in $5 million and we'll have this sweet spot to go skiing, and we can rent it out, and we hire a full-time innkeeper and a full-time housekeeper, and they just they run the thing.
Oh, right?
But and you also
you can't do that. And you can't do that here. It has to be owner occupied. That's part of the conditional use permit that you need in order to run one of these.
I'll just move out there, Antonio. That shouldn't be a problem.
You're like, we got that covered. So this is part of what's
no
so
problem.
crazy.
I got a guy.
Yeah, that's part of what's so crazy about these. It's like, in order to do any kind of, it's really funny when you look at the code for Park City, the land use code, which I pulled up. So total full developer mind here. You sent me the listing. I'm like, let's see what the zoning is on this thing. I pulled it up. I read the code. It's basically in a historic. So this is a landmark itself. It's in a historic district. And pretty much anything that isn't a single family home, with like a few exceptions, requires a conditional use permit, which is, whenever I see anything that says conditional use permit that requires a community hearing and it's up to the discretion of the planning board, which is the reason why only 50% of tourists who come to Park City don't have a place to stay that is an actual hotel, thanks to that kind of thinking. So this is,
And so for this particular one, it has to be owner occupied?
Correct. The owner has to live full time in the property in order for it to continue having the conditional use permit under which it operates as a bed and breakfast.
All right. Well, what percentage do they have to own? Because I could buy this thing and give my innkeeper 5% of the equity.
Yeah, that was actually there.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. I looked at another one a few years ago, and the people who owned it or still own it, they ended up not being able to sell it. They went through 2 applications, and both applications got denied twice. They sued Summit County twice, and Park City just wouldn't let them do it until the community came out. I think one of their neighbors came out and actually said, well, they should just stop trying because we're not going to let them do it. And that was very telling, because if your neighbors just don't feel like it. And one of the objections that the board had about what they had, because they came up with a plan. I mean, they spent millions of dollars trying to get this conditional use for this other one. And one of the things was we'll give ownership to our employees. And the board was not, instead of seeing that as a positive thing, they were like, no, it's too uneven. If you need to give them majority, there is nothing written about what percentage is required in terms of ownership. But the board was like, we don't think it's enough. You're at the mercy of some person who has nothing else to do.
Brett, you're gonna have to move out there and move into this thing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no problem. And good news. Good news is Mr. and Mrs. Smith are the operator here, the Elite Travel platform. So I'll look forward to getting to know them as well.
Oh, I think that's like a travel blog.
Oh gosh.
I don't think those are people.
I was looking forward to meeting both Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
We had one of my closest friends operates a fitness center out in Nantucket, another very affluent, tough to get things done kind of town. Where he's at now, he's got a successful business and it's a gym and personal training and things have worked out. But years ago, one of his clients who he trained is Jim Pilata, who from Raptor, and he owns the Celtics. And this guy found a plot of land kind of near Jim's house and was telling Jim about it during a training session. Said, I'm going to put my gym there. You're just going to. And Jim said, no, you're not. And he said, no. I've got the money I can raise from investors. And Jim said, I feel like you're not hearing me. That's not going to happen. You can't put the gym there. I was like, no, I can get it zoned. And Jim had to put his hand on his shoulder and go, I'm not going to let that happen. You're going to put your gym somewhere else. And he was like, got it.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying. We're not taking a vote.
Yeah.
Understood. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing about it is you can't build this. You can't build this now. You absolutely cannot build this. You can't, at all.
The single best line in this beautiful offering package is 1, 2, 3. If you see line 4 down, go back to what we were just looking at.
Yeah. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, Eric. I was just looking at that.
It says break even plus.
I knew. I clued in on that
If there's
too.
any better marketing that's ever been done, it's $30 million. And by the way, break even plus.
Ish to go with the broker term. It's a 5 cap ish.
Yeah. No, break even plus tells you everything that you need to know. You will likely, it has experienced remarkable year over year real estate appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
So not only you won't see any of the cash, you'll get to pay more in taxes, but that will potentially continue for that. And frankly, that is how these things trade. There are properties that fit this mold where it's almost like a sports team, that there's this joy and pride of, or seeming pride of ownership. There's no cash. You hold on to it for some lengthy period of time, and there's some even more ambitious rich person that buys it from you at a crazy premium. And And that does happen.
Well, I think that we're not talking about professional sports value ships at this point, but I do think those guys are making a ton of money on those based on valuations.
Some of those guys are for sure.
Yeah, I mean the valuations of these NFL teams and NBA teams, all due to the TV revenue, have gone into the mid, somebody was telling me about the valuation of the Celtics, Elliot, which I think is like 5 or 6 billion at this point.
I don't know that it's quite that high, but they bought the Celtics for $350 million 15 years ago, something like that. Now it's, I think, 3.5 to 4 billion.
Yeah.
So they're doing okay.
The guys that bought the Orlando Magic, granted, not as much of the storied past as the Celtics, bought it for $75 million. So those guys have a significant tax problem if they ever sold it now for $2 to $3 billion.
I'm really happy things have worked out for the guys who own the Celtics because, they were pretty poor when they bought the team. So what they really needed was a load of cash.
Yeah. So what we'd say about them for all these professional sports owners, we're all going to pray for them tonight.
We're all going to pray for them. All right. So no one's buying this to make a financial return. You're buying this to maybe break even, and you've got this cool thing that you own. So I don't know that the price is crazy. Like maybe it doesn't sell for 31, maybe it sells for 29 or whatever, but you're not making the argument to the seller and the broker of like, I need to get to an unlevered X. That's not the conversation. The conversation is just like, am I selling a toy at a time when people want to buy toys?
Right.
Right? Is that it? I mean, ahead of ski season, people are like, this could be fun.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing too. Like when I first started working, I started actually in landscape architecture, and all this ties into it, but I started working in 2008, 2009. I mean, if we remember what was going on then, it was grim. However, I was working in like ultra luxury homes. Like that's what we did. We did $1 million gardens. And the best year for that company when they expanded into the US was 2008, 2009. So when you're talking about people who are likely to buy $31 million toys, I don't know that they were ever off the market. Like, if anything, I feel like whenever there's an economic slowdown, these people are suddenly like, I got some extra time. Let me see what I can blow money on. So maybe. I mean, that's because that is definitely your audience. Like
work is slow. Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And you're right about, the thing that they do to make all this money, that business might be slow at the moment. So they're like, I'll go buy this trinket, which, hey man, more power to them.
And the thing about break even plus, also the knock-on effect of break even plus is that means there's no cash for any sort of pesky debt service. So you're not borrowing money on this. This is a $30 million check that you then hope to make. If it is a financial decision, you hope to sell it to somebody for more. Another curious thing about hotels is that as opposed to say buying some terrific piece of land or something like that in the Intermountain West, is these can also go negative. So you can end up writing a lot of checks when for whatever reason the Park Avenue is getting repaved and you're closed for a summer, or there's some sort of a global pandemic, or any number of things, any kind of hiccup, you're writing checks. So it comes with so not only do you get to write a check for 30, you've got this ongoing potential liability that can pop up to get you writing checks on a weekly basis.
I am perfectly built for this.
There's nothing that's like low stress about hotels either.
No. And by the way, so this is a 200-year-old house. Like this is not like, like the maintenance on this thing is real. You have real snow situations in this area. And additionally, which obviously, affects the aging of the envelope of the building. You have freeze thaw, this is probably very leaky, I would imagine. There's probably going to be a lot of roof situations that you're going to have to deal with. Never mind the fact that this thing was last renovated in 2011. And if you want to sell this thing as any mark of luxury, that is absolutely gross. Like, we renovate hotels every 3 to 4 years. So that's another thing to think about as well. An interesting thing that I saw when you pulled up the financial, as little financial info as we have, was the occupancy, and it's like in the 40s. And this is super interesting because that is so typical of the seasonal markets, right? Like normally for a hotel to be very attractive, you want to see occupancy like in the 70s plus. But when you look at these seasonal markets, like this 40, 45, whatever, these are actually very normal numbers for this place. Although there's been an increase in recreation and sort of interest in the area during the summer. So it's not entirely seasonal anymore, I'd say, except for the shoulder seasons where like people don't want to be here because it's pretty miserable. But maybe, I don't know, if you want to talk about, I'm putting my broker hat on, I guess, if there's like an upside anywhere, it's like, well, you could try to you could work on the occupancy. There's definitely some room there. They're leaving some meat on the bone where you could potentially improve operations or something. So, I mean, that's.
You're hired, Antonio. You're hired.
I would be most concerned with the fact that this thing was last renovated in 2011. Like, this is really, and not only that, but now you're conducting a renovation in a historic district of Park City. So good luck with that. And that goes back to Eric's, like, this thing could go negative. Like, it's not could. It's like when you buy it, it will be negative, especially if you actually want to bring it up to a certain standard, which, again, another argument is you don't really need to because there's just not that much around anyway. So like you could get away with not doing much to it, but I don't know. I kind of feel like if you're buying a $31 million toy, you might want to renovate it. Just, maybe.
So think about this. If you had, so this is clearly an individual buyer. There's no, I can't imagine a company buying it, and I'm sure there's not room in those numbers for some kind of outsourced professional management. That would, anything that's operating at break even plus, that plus goes away by bringing in a third party. So let's just say it's $30 million in cash. What do you, and so to do that, the buyer would, you'd have to probably be at let's just say, you guys tell me, 300 million liquid, that this would start to enter your realm of.
This would darken your door.
Yeah.
And then think about, okay, in that position, a lot of stuff you can do. Why not buy a boat?
Well, speaking of ongoing maintenance, if you have to ask how much this boat costs to fill up with gas, you can't afford it.
Yeah, but if I'm on a boat, I'm on the boat. If I've got this thing, I'm not staying here.
Well, so again, wearing the broker hat again, though, everyone on the call, there's some huge upside here where you could start charging for iPads and iPods for loan. So just increase the price on that, start charging for Wi-Fi. Who needs an iPad or an iPod on loan if you're staying here or buying this thing?
I was cracking up when Antonio was talking because I'm very much used to the affordable housing lens. So I saw renovated in 2011. I thought, man, I bet this thing looks great. And because I'm just so used to seeing like kind of beat up housing projects. And Antonio goes, that's gross. I was like, oh, like, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. This fits into the core plus category or the core plus more with that 2011 renovation.
I was way off.
Samsonite. I was way off.
The other appeal of this, I could imagine, is say you've got a pad in Park City. You want to have people come, but you kind of don't want them in your space. This could be you, Antonio. You got a slick pad out there. You've got a couple of rooms. You don't want them there. You say, hey, come stay at the place downtown. I'll see you when I see you.
So there's a guy who started Fidelity, either Fidelity Title or Fidelity Mortgage. He owns the Vegas Golden Knights hockey team. He also owns this winery out in Napa called Chalk Hill. And he has several homes around the country. He builds the exact same home. And it's like the guy who was running the Chalk Hill was telling us about 5,000 square foot, 2-bedroom. It's his bedroom and a bedroom for his daughter. And then in the towns that he owns a house in, he also buys a boutique hotel because he'll have people come visit, but he's like, I don't want you staying here. So he will just put them up in the hotel that he owns in town. So he can have them over, have dinner, and then like a car comes and is like, all right, you all have to get out of my house. Which I thought was like, I mean, if you've got that kind of cash, I always joke with my wife that our next house is going to be a 1-bedroom, so no one can come visit, which she doesn't seem to like that joke as much as I do. But I do sort of get the appeal of like, you can come for dinner and then you have to, I don't want to see you when I first wake up.
Well, then for that, Elliot, it would be really nice to offer the complimentary car service, like cars arranged. In
right.
And
I think that's the pitch. Come stay.
Yeah.
We have car service to get you out of my house.
Yeah, let's remarket it, and you could have like imagine. I'm picturing like some overweight guy in his boxers staring into a refrigerator, scratching himself and saying, "You don't want this guy at your house."
Do you like skiing and dislike your extended family? Then this is for you.
This is your solution.
This is for your solution.
Do I have a deal for you? If that's
I have
you
a deal for you.
And you could also do this like around Christmas. At Christmas or President's Day, is just drive up on the mountain and leave this flyer in those houses.
Yes.
So somebody that's overwhelmed with relatives or friends they don't really like, here's your way out. Quit clothing.
Yeah, and I would also say the one thing about super wealthy people and ultra wealthy people is there are no shortage of shit show dynamics in those families. So I think we're onto something here. Generally, ultra wealthy people don't like their family.
I'm a buyer. We're going to put this to a vote. I'm a buyer. Antonio, are you a buyer? Someone's
Sure.
getting a call.
Sure, I'll renovate it for you guys.
You're a buyer. Brett's a buyer.
I'm in.
Eric, are you a buyer?
I'm in. Ring the bell, baby.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
I like it. I think we've pretty much covered this one. Unless you guys have anything else, I think it's super cool. I don't. It's not you're not buying it for a typical return on investment, but I think the reasons for buying it are still pretty strong. So
it's a loss carry forward to set off some of the tax liability and how you become a certified rich guy. I was an accounting major, so I think that's an accurate comment.
We got anything else here, guys?
No, this was
I
fun.
think that's a wrap.
I think that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Antonio, for joining us this week. And I'll call you next time I'm in Park City to tour this one and see if it's something we want to buy.